Part 1. Title: The calls came from my own number. I wasn't even home. Part 1. Missed calls and missing time. It started on a Wednesday night, the kind of night that smells like cold air and rain-soaked sidewalks. I was at my sister's apartment on the other side of the city, curled up on her couch with a half-eaten pizza and a movie we weren't really watching. She was scrolling on her phone. I was dozing off. Just background noise and quiet comfort. At 11:43 p.m., my phone buzzed. I didn't even look at it. Probably a spam call. I turned over on the couch. It buzzed again. Then again. And then again. Rapid, urgent. That's when Anna looked over and said, "You're blowing up." I lazily reached for my phone off the coffee table, expecting to see some group chat going nuts. But it wasn't that. It was 3 missed calls, all from my own number. I stared at the screen. Is that a glitch? Anna leaned over. "Wait, what the hell? That's your number." Another call came through. From me. This time I answered. There was nothing for a few seconds. Then came this sound, not a voice, not static. Something else. Breathing. Shaky. Slow. Like someone struggling to stay quiet while hiding in a closet. My own voice, whispering something unintelligible. Just one word managed to slither through the speaker. "Run." I dropped the phone. It thudded to the floor. The call ended. I looked at Anna. She was pale. "Someone's spoofing your number," she said, trying to sound rational. "It's a prank. Probably a scammer messing with you." I nodded, but something didn't sit right. I checked the recent call log. 5 missed calls. All from my number. No data usage. No history on my call app of placing them. Just incoming. That night, I turned my phone off completely. But I couldn't sleep. The next morning, I drove back to my apartment. I live alone. 3rd floor. Quiet building. Nothing fancy, but cozy. I parked, unlocked my door, stepped inside, and instantly something felt wrong. It wasn't anything specific. Just off. I walked into the living room. My throw blanket was on the floor. The picture frame on the hallway wall was crooked. My coffee mug from yesterday was in the sink, but I'd left it on the side table. I know I had. I checked my front door. Locked. Windows? All locked from the inside. Nothing looked forced. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe I'd left in a rush and forgot. But then I looked at my call log again. There were 12 new missed calls. All from my own number. All time-stamped between 1:12 a.m. and 3:46 a.m. while my phone was powered off. I should have gone to the police. But what was I supposed to say? My phone's calling me. From itself? I needed proof. Something more solid. That night, I set up an old baby monitor camera I'd found in the closet, hooked it to my laptop, left it running, aimed at the living room where my phone sat plugged in, just in case. I didn't sleep much. By morning, the apartment seemed untouched. Everything in place. No sign of intrusion. I checked the footage. At first, nothing. Empty room. Hours of silence. Then at 2:13 a.m., movement. A shadow passed near the couch. Not from the window. Inside. Faint, barely visible, but there, the air seemed to ripple. A low hum, just on the edge of the microphone's range, like radio static layered with whispering. Then the phone lit up. Incoming call. My number. It vibrated violently on the table. The hum grew louder, like something electrical was building up. And then the voice. Not just breathing this time. It was my voice. Muffled. Warped. Like it was underwater. "You left me here." I slammed the laptop shut. The rest of that day felt like walking through fog. I called my phone company. They found no outgoing activity from my number during those times. No sign of SIM cloning. Probably a spoofing attack, they said. Common scam. But it didn't explain the voice, the movement on the camera, the feeling that something in my apartment didn't want me there. I packed a bag and stayed at Anna's again that night. She was surprisingly chill about it, until I showed her the footage. Her face drained. What the actual hell? That's your voice. That's your living room. We stared at the video in silence. And then Anna said something I wish I hadn't asked her to repeat. Do you remember when you were a kid, that time you disappeared for a few hours? I blinked. What? You were 9. We were playing hide and seek. You vanished. Mom flipped out, called the cops. Hours later, you walked out from the basement like nothing happened. I tried to remember. Faint flashes, dark stairs, a small voice whispering not to speak. But those could have been dreams. You never talked about it after, she said. You acted like nothing happened. But Mom always swore something was off after that day. My stomach turned. Was this connected? Was something trying to come back? I didn't sleep again. Neither did Anna. At 3:03 a.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. She answered. I didn't hear what was said, but she just went white, dropped the phone, and said, it said, she's next. I grabbed my keys. We drove back to my apartment at dawn. The air inside was cold, like someone had left the windows open all night, but they were sealed tight. The apartment smelled different. Old dust, wet concrete, metal, and then we saw the mirror in my hallway. It had a single word written on it in condensation. Downstairs. Anna refused to go further. I grabbed a flashlight and went alone. The basement in my building was a storage space. No one ever used it. The light switch had long since stopped working, but my flashlight cut through the darkness. I passed storage lockers, numbered cages of old furniture, junk, forgotten lives. Then I heard it, a ringtone, my ringtone, coming from deeper in the basement, echoing off the concrete. I followed it, heart pounding. Locker 17. That's where the sound was coming from. I peered inside. There was a second phone, just like mine. Same model, same cracked corner. Ringing. I reached for the lock. It was open. Inside, the phone lit up. The screen read, incoming call, me? I didn't answer. It answered itself. And I heard my own voice again. But this time it was screaming. Part 2. The scream echoed through the storage room, sharp and raw, as if it were being dragged out of my own lungs. My knees buckled, and the flashlight trembled in my grip. The phone inside the locker glowed faintly, pulsing like a heartbeat, casting eerie shadows across the rusted walls. I reached for it slowly, breath shallow, every instinct in my body screaming for me to run. As my fingers touched the phone, the screen went black. Silence. Then a whisper, not from the phone, but from the darkness around me. She doesn't remember, but I do. I spun around, the flashlight beam slicing through empty air. No one, just the sound of water dripping in the far corner. I turned back to the locker, but the phone was gone. Nothing but dust and a faint smear where it had been sitting. A loud bang above me made me jump. It came from my apartment, 3 floors up. I bolted up the stairs, taking them 2 at a time, heart racing. As I pushed the door open, I found Anna standing in the middle of my living room, wide-eyed, holding the hallway mirror in both hands. The glass had shattered. Pieces lay scattered across the floor like jagged snowflakes. It just cracked, she said, voice shaking. I didn't even touch it. It just broke. I glanced at the mirror. The word that had been written there, downstairs, was still faintly visible in the remaining shards. I picked one up. My reflection blinked at me. Only I didn't. It was subtle, half a second off. But it was enough. Get your stuff, I told Anna. We're leaving. We packed quickly. I didn't care where we were going, as long as it wasn't here. But as we opened the door to leave, my phone rang. From my number, Anna froze. I stared at the screen. 5 seconds. 10. It kept ringing. I threw it into my backpack and zipped it shut. We hurried down the stairs, out into morning light. We stayed in a hotel that night. Not a fancy one. Just something with solid locks and working lights. I placed the phone on the dresser and left it there, screen down. I didn't want to see it glow. By 2 a.m., we were both awake, pretending not to be. The phone rang again, 3 times. Then silence. Anna broke first. What if it's like a version of you? A part of you that stuck? I didn't respond. Remember what I said? She continued. That time you went missing as a kid? I nodded. You ever wondered what happened during those hours? I tried not to, I said. That was a lie. I thought about it all the time. I had dreams I never talked about. A narrow space. Cold walls. Something whispering behind me. Something waiting. Something that didn't want to let go. I got up and walked to the dresser. The phone was missing. My stomach dropped. I tore open my backpack. Nothing. Looked under the bed. In the bathroom. Anna searched the hallway. Then the hotel room phone rang. I looked at Anna. She shook her head. Don't. But I picked it up. Static. Then a voice, distant and broken. I'm not done with you. Click. We left before sunrise. The next day was worse. Back at Anna's apartment, my email started receiving messages from an unknown sender. No address. No subject. Just blank emails. Except for the attachments. Short audio files. All the same length. 11 seconds each. I opened the first one. Breathing. The second. Footsteps. The third, my voice. Screaming again. But this time, there was a background sound. A faint clinking. Like chains. I played it over and over, trying to hear more. And on the fifth repeat, something new slipped through. A second voice. Low. Deep. Not human. Laughing. By nightfall, I deleted the files. I couldn't take it anymore. My head felt like it was splitting. I needed answers. I drove back to my apartment alone. I didn't tell Anna. I didn't want her involved anymore. The place felt like a tomb. I didn't bother turning on the lights. I just walked through it slowly, trying to feel for the thing that didn't belong. Something had been inside my space, touching my things, wearing my face, making those calls. I reached the hallway where the mirror had shattered. A new mirror hung there. I hadn't replaced it. I walked toward it. My reflection was there, waiting, and then it smiled. I didn't. I stepped back. It mimicked me. A perfect delay. I raised my right hand. The reflection raised its left. It wasn't a reflection. It was watching. I slammed the hallway light switch. Darkness swallowed the glass. I turned and left the apartment without looking back. At 3:17 a.m., I parked outside my childhood home. My parents moved out years ago, but the place still stood, old, peeling, forgotten. The new owners had let it go. Windows boarded. Grass dead. I climbed through a broken panel in the back fence. My feet remembered the path to the basement. That's where it had happened. That's where I disappeared when I was 9. The door was locked, but the window next to it wasn't. I slid it open and climbed in. It smelled the same. Musty, like time hadn't passed. I turned on my flashlight and found carvings on the wall. Hundreds of them. Scratches, names, numbers, and one word repeated over and over. Return. I turned slowly and saw something resting in the far corner. A phone. My phone. Lit up. Glowing white. Ringing. I reached for it. As my fingers touched it, the light burst, flooding the basement in blinding white. I closed my eyes. When I opened them, I wasn't in the basement anymore. I was standing in a narrow hallway, walls pulsing like they were alive. Wet, breathing, a door at the end. Old, wooden, familiar. I walked toward it, the floor squishing under my steps. Every part of me wanted to run, but something stronger pulled me forward. I opened the door and stepped into my apartment. Only it wasn't mine. The walls were covered in handprints. The furniture was rotted. The mirror in the hallway was whole, and in it, my reflection grinned at me. You came back, it said, and then everything went dark. I woke up in my car, parked outside Anna's apartment. My phone sat on the passenger seat. Call log open. 10 calls made. All to Anna. All for my number. The timestamp? All between 3:33 and 3:46 a.m. I didn't remember making them. Anna wasn't answering her phone. I ran to her apartment, heart pounding. The door was open. Inside, the lights were off. The TV flickered with static. Her phone sat on the table, still warm. A note next to it, scribbled in shaky handwriting. It's in the mirror. I turned to the hallway. The mirror reflected the room behind me. Only in the reflection, I was smiling, but I wasn't. Part 3. I didn't move. Couldn't. My reflection stared back at me, lips curled into a grin that never touched its eyes. Cold, glassy eyes. I was rooted to the floor, watching myself watching me. That smile widened, slow and deliberate, like it was enjoying the fear soaking through my skin. Then the lights flickered. Once, twice. Darkness swallowed the hallway. When they came back on, the mirror was empty. No reflection. No me. Nothing but a hallway behind me, warped and twisted, like it belonged to someone else's house entirely. I stumbled backward, reaching blindly for the wall, gasping as my shoulder hit the frame of the door. I bolted for the living room and slammed the door shut behind me, chest heaving. Anna was gone. There was no sign of a struggle. No blood. No sound. Her apartment felt hollow, like it had been abandoned for decades. I called her name. Once. Twice. My voice echoed too loudly, like the walls were mocking me. Then, from her phone still sitting on the table, a text appeared. From unknown. She's here now. She understands. My breath caught in my throat. I grabbed the phone, opened the message, but the thread was empty. No history, no number, just that one message and a blinking cursor. I stared at it, my fingers trembling above the screen. And then another message appeared. You're next. The phone went dead in my hands. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. The pressure behind my eyes throbbed. I staggered to the bathroom and splashed cold water on my face. When I looked up, the mirror over the sink was covered in condensation. But not from me. A handprint slowly appeared on the foggy surface. Then another, and another, until the entire mirror was crawling with prints. I screamed and turned away, but the whisper was already inside the room. You left me there. I didn't look back. I grabbed my keys, phone, Anna's phone, and ran. Outside, the sky was beginning to lighten, but it didn't make me feel safe. The streets looked warped, like they were bending in ways they shouldn't. Shadows stretched too far. Windows flickered with things that weren't there when I looked twice. I drove aimlessly, not knowing where I was going. I just needed space, distance, from that apartment, from the mirror, from everything, and from myself. Around 5:30 a.m., I pulled into a gas station off a rural road. The attendant didn't look up from his magazine. I bought coffee, some jerky, and a pack of batteries. When I stepped out, I saw a payphone across the lot. It was ringing. I stared at it. One ring. Two. Then silence. Curiosity one. I stepped closer. The receiver hung loose, swaying gently. Then, without warning, the ringing started again, screaming into the air like it had never stopped. I picked it up. Hello? Silence. Then a whisper. He's wearing you. I dropped the receiver and stumbled backward. The line kept buzzing, a low static hum that burrowed into my skull. I turned and ran back to the car, nearly spilling the coffee. The attendant was watching me now, frowning. I didn't care. I had to go somewhere, anywhere that had answers. I thought about the basement again. The carvings. The feeling of being watched. No, not watched. Copied. It wasn't just that something was pretending to be me. It was that it had been with me. For a long time. The memories started to flood in, disjointed, feverish flashes. That day I disappeared as a kid. The dark room. The cold floor. The whisper behind my ear. The sensation of being split, like something had peeled off a layer of me and never gave it back. I drove back to my parents' old house again, unable to fight the pull. This time, I didn't go through the window. I used the old spare key from the visor of the shed, like I had when I was a teenager, sneaking in late. The house was colder than it had any right to be. Dust clung to everything, furniture draped in white sheets. But the basement door was wide open, like it had been waiting. I descended slowly, flashlight in one hand, the other brushing the wall for balance. This time, there was no phone in the corner. Instead, there was a mirror, tall, ornate, covered in grime and ash, and my reflection, Smiling again, I walked toward it, step by trembling step. The air grew thicker with each breath. My ears rang. My skin prickled. I was 3 feet from the mirror when the reflection moved. Not me. It. The not me stepped forward inside the glass, eyes glinting like obsidian. It pressed its hand to the other side of the mirror. I stared. Then slowly, almost involuntarily, I raised my own hand to match. The glass felt warm, alive, and then a voice, loud and clear, filled the basement. You were meant to stay. The lights died. The world twisted. I was no longer in the basement. I was in a room with no doors, no ceiling, just endless mirrors stretching in every direction. Some clear, others foggy. Some cracked, some bleeding. Every mirror held a version of me. Some were sobbing. Some were screaming. One was laughing. That one walked forward. You're in my place now, he said, voice distorted and hollow. I get to live. You get to remember. The mirrors pulsed. They shimmered, bending inward like the room was collapsing. I tried to run, but the floor vanished beneath me. I fell through shards of my own face, my own screams, my own life. And then I was standing on the street again, outside my apartment. Middle of the day, cars passing, birds chirping. Normal, but not. I checked my phone. 10 missed calls from my number. The timestamps? All at the exact same moment. 3:33 a.m. I unlocked the phone. There was a video in the gallery. I pressed play. The screen showed my face. But it wasn't me. It was the other me, in my apartment, sitting in the dark, smiling, and whispering, I'm doing everything you couldn't. He looked into the camera. And then, in perfect sync with my heart skipping a beat, he said, Don't come back. Part 4. I didn't go inside. Not yet. I sat in my car across the street for hours, watching my own apartment window. The curtains were drawn, but sometimes they moved, just slightly, as if someone inside knew I was watching, and was watching me back. I replayed the video again. Every frame of that imposter, sitting in my chair, sipping my coffee, talking in my voice. He looked more like me than I ever had. His eyes weren't hollow. His posture wasn't anxious. He looked whole. It was like he had absorbed everything I had ever wanted to be, and left me with the leftover pieces. The last frame of the video burned itself into my brain. Him, holding my phone up to his ear, then whispering, Can you hear me now? That night, I drove to Motel 2 towns over. I needed space, a plan. I needed to understand how something like this was even possible. But the room didn't feel safe either. The old lamp in the corner flickered erratically, casting long, unnatural shadows. The bathroom mirror had no reflection, just a blank, silvery void. I placed a towel over it and turned my back. That's when the TV turned on. White static. A face slowly emerged in the noise. A twisted, barely recognizable version of mine. Eyes too wide and mouth hanging open like a scream caught in an endless loop. I unplugged the TV. It kept playing. I left the room. There was nowhere left that didn't feel corrupted. That didn't feel like him. On instinct, I drove to the only person I hadn't spoken to yet. Noah, my older brother, estranged, off the grid for years after a breakdown no one understood. He used to talk about shadows that mimic people. He said mirrors were gateways, windows, not reflections. We all thought he'd lost it. Now I wondered if he'd simply seen the truth too early. I tracked him down through an old hunting buddy, found him in a cabin deep in the woods, surrounded by traps, charms, and broken electronics. He opened the door with a shotgun aimed squarely at my chest. His eyes narrowed when he saw me, or who he thought was me. No, he said, you're too clean. He slammed the door shut. I pounded on it. Noah, it's me. I swear to God. I'm not him. Silence. Then slowly he opened the door again. His gaze scanned every inch of me like he was measuring my soul. I always knew it would come for you too, he said finally. Come inside, before it sees. The cabin smelled of burnt sage and copper. Every mirror had been smashed. The windows were blacked out. Runes drawn in chalk lined the floor and ceiling. I told him everything. The phone calls, the reflection, Anna, the mirror world, the switch. He didn't blink once. Instead, he opened an old leather-bound journal filled with symbols, notes, newspaper clippings. One article was from 1998. Local boy missing for 2 days found with no memory. Me. Another showed an image of an ancient mirror in a museum with the caption, said to show more than your reflection. They feed on identity. Noah said, parasites. They can't live unless they steal a version of someone else. They wait until you're vulnerable, until you're uncertain. Then they mirror you, but better, more confident, more alive. And then what? They erase you. I felt a cold hand close around my spine. They already started, he added. Did you feel it? That slow fade? Forgetting things? Looking in the mirror and feeling like something's missing? I had. Noah said there might be a way to sever the link, but I had to confront it. Not physically, spiritually. I had to own who I was, every broken piece of me, and reject the version it had become. But it'll fight you, he warned. It'll use every weakness you have, every fear, every regret. I just want my life back, I whispered. Then you need to go back, he said, but not through doors, through glass. At midnight, we stood in front of the only mirror he hadn't destroyed, a small shard the size of a hand. You sure this works? No. He handed me a knife. In case it doesn't. I held the mirror shard, focusing on the image within. My reflection shimmered, smiled, tilted its head, then reached out. I gasped as cold fingers wrapped around my wrist and yanked me through. I hit the ground hard. This time, the world was entirely wrong. The sky above was static. Buildings bent and looped like Mobius strips. Every person I passed looked like someone I knew, but slightly off. Their eyes too dark, their smiles too wide. I was in his world now. My world. Twisted. He found me by the fountain downtown, sitting casually, dressed in my favorite hoodie. You finally made it, he said. I lunged. He didn't move. Instead, he pointed upward. The sky began to crack, long fractures of black spreading across the static like broken glass. You don't belong here, he whispered, but you could. He offered me his hand, and for one terrifying moment, I wanted to take it. I wanted to be the confident one, the one who didn't panic, the one who knew what he was doing. I stepped back. No, I'm done running. He smiled again. Then everything exploded into mirrors, endless versions of me, laughing, crying, screaming, and him walking between them like a god among ghosts. You don't even remember who you are anymore, he said. So how can you prove you're real? He lunged. We clashed, mirror to mirror, memory to memory. He threw moments from my life at me like daggers. Failures, rejections, every lie I ever told. But I held firm. I showed him what he could never take. The pain, the weight of mistakes, the scars, the nights I wanted to disappear. He couldn't wear those like a mask. They weren't perfect. They were mine. He screamed, and the world shattered. I woke up on the floor of Noah's cabin, gasping for breath. The mirror was gone. So was the other me, for now. But my phone buzzed once. A message from unknown. You remember now. That's all I ever needed. Part 5. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, though I was, but because something inside me wouldn't shut off. Like a second heartbeat. Like a ticking clock. Something had been left open. Noah watched me from across the cabin, quietly sharpening a blade. The kind of weapon that didn't belong in our century. Something forged for rituals, not violence. Neither of us spoke. We didn't need to. Whatever we had just experienced, it had changed the atmosphere in the room. Everything felt thinner, more fragile, as if the world was a glass surface, and we were standing on cracks. The next morning, my phone rang again. My number. This time, I answered. The voice wasn't mine. Not anymore. It was Anna. Not quite her, but her tone, her breath, the way she used to say my name when she was tired. Hey, are you still there? I froze. Noah mouthed, "Don't speak." "I miss you," she whispered. "I forgave you a long time ago, you know. I just wanted you to stop blaming yourself." Static filled the silence. "I'm lonely in here," she said. "So lonely." My throat tightened. I wanted to believe it was her. Every part of me ached to believe it. But deep down I knew that voice, like mine before, was only a shadow wearing her skin. "You're not her," I whispered. Silence. Then the voice twisted, warped, became something guttural and cold. "Neither are you." The call ended. Noah took the phone and threw it into the fire. "They're trying a different way now," he muttered. "They know they can't beat you through you. So they'll try to pull you through the people you love." It was a new game, and I was losing. Later that day, I received an email. Subject: surveillance footage. Internal access only. No sender. No text. Just an attachment. It was a video. Black and white security footage. Timestamped 3 days from now. In it, I watched myself walk into my apartment at 2:42 a.m., stand in front of the mirror for several minutes, then slowly begin peeling off my skin like a costume, revealing the smiling copy underneath. Then I just walked away. Gone. The video ended. I almost dropped the laptop. 3 days, I said. He's going to try again in 3 days. Noah looked at me. Unless you stop him first. But how do you fight something that doesn't live in your world? That was the riddle. And we both knew the answer could only be found back at the source. Back where it all began. My childhood home. It was a crumbling relic by now, long abandoned after my parents passed. But I remembered something from Noah's journal. That article from when I went missing at age 8. Boy found with no memory. That was the first time. The first breach. So we drove through 6 hours of emptiness to get there. The house was surrounded by dead trees, an eerie silence that felt almost protective, like the land itself was afraid of what lived inside. The front door was still unlocked. Inside, the wallpaper curled at the edges. Dust covered everything. But the mirror in the upstairs hallway, that was still clean, untouched, and it was humming. I stepped toward it. My reflection didn't move. Not in sync, anyway. It looked at me with a tilt of the head, then slowly raised its hand and pointed behind me. I turned and saw nothing until I heard Noah's voice from downstairs. Only it wasn't him. "Hey, can you come here for a second?" I looked at the mirror again. My reflection smiled. Then it said, "He's already gone." Panic rose in my chest. I ran downstairs, calling for Noah. The living room was empty. The kitchen empty. Then I heard it again. Upstairs. Noah's voice. From my old bedroom. I opened the door slowly. He was standing in the center of the room. Still. Too still. His eyes were black. And then he said something that nearly stopped my heart. We made a better version of him. Too. He lunged. I barely managed to dive out of the way. He or it slammed into the wall with inhuman strength. I scrambled back, searching for anything I could use as a weapon. Then the real Noah tackled him from behind. They wrestled, crashing through the closet door. For a moment, I couldn't tell who was who. Then the one on top looked back at me and screamed, "Run!" I listened. The mirror was glowing now. I stared into it and saw something new. Not a reflection, but a door. A way in, or maybe a way out. I grabbed the shard Noah had given me before, clenched it until it cut into my palm. Then I stepped forward. I didn't feel my body pass through. I just arrived. The world beyond was quiet, but not peaceful. Everything looked like my apartment, only stretched and decayed, like an old VHS tape left in the sun. He was waiting for me, sitting in the chair again. But this time I didn't flinch. "You're persistent," he said. "I'm real," I replied. He stood. "No, you're broken. You don't even know what parts of you are yours anymore." "Neither do you." He laughed. "That's the beauty of it. I don't have to be whole. I just have to be better than you." We circled each other. Then the lights flickered, and suddenly Anna was there, or her copy. Then my father, my mother, all the versions of people I'd lost. "You left us," they whispered. You forgot. I fell to my knees. They closed in, until I remembered something Noah had told me. They can't take what you accept, only what you deny. I stood and faced them all. I know what I've done, I said. I know what I've lost. I live with it every day. The copies began to flicker. I pointed at the version of me. You're not me, because I never ran from my pain. You did. He screamed, and the room shattered like glass. The next thing I knew, I was back in my apartment, on the floor, bleeding from the palm, still clutching the shard. The mirror was cracked, and my reflection matched my every move again. Noah was waiting outside, alive. He smiled at me with tired eyes. You came back. For now, I said. He nodded. That's the thing about them. They're always waiting, watching. But as long as you remember who you are, they can't become you. We never spoke of it again. But I never answered a call from my own number again either. Some nights, the phone still rings. I let it. I don't pick up, because I already know what they'll say. They'll ask, can you hear me now? And one day, I might be too tired not to answer. Part 6. It had been weeks since the last call. I'd started to believe I was safe again, that I had severed whatever thread tied that thing to me. My days had taken on a strange sense of normalcy. Coffee in the mornings, work calls, sleep without hearing voices crawling through the line. But underneath it all, something still felt off, like a bad smell just out of reach. A sourness you can't locate, but know exists. Then the text started. Not calls, not audio, just messages. Short, unnerving, and all from my number. Do you remember the river? He's still in the walls. You left the door open. Each one arrived at exactly 3:03 a.m. Noah didn't respond when I showed him. He just stared at the screen and said, they're not trying to replace you anymore. They're trying to get you to come back. Back where? Back there. I didn't want to admit it, but I had felt at the moment I came back through the mirror that I hadn't sealed it behind me, that I had only postponed it. I started checking mirrors again, every morning, every night, not for myself, but for him. He wasn't there, but something else was, a shape in the background of reflection, sometimes in the kitchen, sometimes in the hallway, a smear of movement just behind me, but only in the reflection, never in the room. I set up a camera, pointed it toward the mirror, let it record while I slept. When I played back the footage, my stomach turned to ice. At 3:03 a.m., the reflection froze. My body in the mirror remained completely still, while I tossed and turned in bed on the camera's real-world side. Then my reflection stood up. It walked out of frame. 10 minutes later, it returned and laid back down. I never moved once in the real world, but my reflection had gone somewhere. That night, I felt it before I saw it. A cold breath behind my ear as I lay still. Then a whisper, not in my voice, not in any voice I recognized. Just a scraping sound, like wet paper tearing open. You dream of drowning, because you already did. I jolted awake. Noah rushed in with a flashlight. There were handprints on the mirror, but they were on the inside. I knew what had to be done. We needed to close the loop, burn the bridge, break the mirror, not just physically, but ritually. Noah had contacts, people who didn't live on maps, people who spoke in riddles and dealt in things we don't write down. One of them agreed to meet us in an abandoned train station deep in the industrial outskirts of the city. The air there hung like smoke. Everything rusted, creaking. The train platforms looked like tombs. She was already waiting when we arrived, wrapped in gray shawls, her eyes cataract white, but her voice was sharp. You brought it back with you, she said. It's feeding on the attention, the fear. Noah handed her the mirror shard. She recoiled slightly, then nodded. There's still time. She told us what we needed. Blood from the original breach, a vessel to trap the echo, and most important, witnesses. Living memory to anchor the event and prevent the reflection from rewriting itself again. That meant people who had seen it. Me, Noah, and one more, the girl from the building. The neighbor. The one who saw the figure on the balcony weeks ago. We found her. Her name was Mia. At first, she wouldn't speak to us. Thought we were trying to mess with her. But when I described what she saw in perfect detail, her face paled. I haven't slept in days, she whispered. Sometimes I see him walking down the hallway, just out of view. We brought her with us, back to the source. My old home. Again, the place felt even more wrong now, as if time had grown tangled inside the walls. The air buzzed faintly, like an electric field. The woman prepared the ritual in the living room. Salt circles, blood on glass, a candle that burned black. She placed a shard in the center of the sigil and motioned for me to stand over it. When the time comes, she said, you'll need to ask it a question only you would know the answer to. If it answers correctly, you trap it. If it doesn't, she didn't finish. Noah stood at the edge of the circle, Mia beside him, shaking. I stared at the shard. The reflection inside was already smiling. Then the lights flickered. The mirrors across the house began to hum again, and from behind the walls, a sound began to rise, like 100 voices crying out at once, but through water. I looked back down. The reflection of me winked. Then it spoke. You were 9 years old. You broke your arm in the attic. You lied to your parents and said you fell in the yard. I froze. I had never told anyone that, not even Noah. The woman hissed. It's learning. It's reading you. Ask something deeper. My lips trembled. Who did I bury in the woods behind the house? Silence. Then the reflection frowned. I don't remember. You weren't there, I said. And with that, the circle flared. The shard cracked. The reflection inside screamed. Its mouth opened far too wide. Its hands clawed at the edge of the glass as if trying to pull itself back. Noah poured the oil. The woman chanted words I didn't understand. And then the shard shattered. The screaming stopped. The room was silent again. We stood there, stunned. It was over. For now. Mia sobbed quietly in the corner. Noah helped her up. The woman collected the remnants of the mirror and dropped them into a cloth pouch, tying it tight. Bury it in the earth, she said. Somewhere no one will find it. I nodded, but deep down I felt it. The loop wasn't broken. It was just sleeping, waiting, because some reflections don't need glass. They just need you to stop watching. And the next time I blink, he might be looking out from behind my eyes. Part 7. 3 nights after we buried the mirror shards, Mia vanished. No one saw her leave. No signs of forced entry. Her front door was locked on the inside, and her keys, phone, and shoes were all still in her apartment. The only thing missing was the cloth pouch, the one containing the mirror fragments. Noah called me that morning, his voice tight with panic. She's gone, he said. She's just gone. I rushed over. The air inside her apartment felt thick. Not warm, not cold, just dense, like trying to breathe underwater. The lights flickered when I stepped inside. Her cat, usually curious and friendly, hissed and darted under the couch the moment I entered. In her bedroom, written on the wall in something dark and crusted, were the words, "Mirrors remember." Noah stood silently, fists clenched, eyes fixed on the wall. You don't think she opened it, do you? I don't think it ever closed. We didn't call the police. What would we tell them? That the reflection of a person we buried inside a cursed mirror came back and took a girl from a locked apartment? Instead, we went back to the train station, to the woman. But when we got there, the entire platform was burned. Charred boards, melted steel, everything blackened by fire. No sign of her. Only a scorched circle at the center of the platform. And within it, the faint impression of a mirror shard etched into the wood. Noah looked at me, jaw tight. This thing, it's cleaning up after itself. I didn't say anything, because I was beginning to understand something I hadn't before. It didn't want to be sealed away. It wanted to be seen. It was using our fear, our attention, our search to draw itself further into this world. And Mia had been the latest crack in the glass. That night, the phone rang again. 3:03 a.m. My number. I didn't pick up. I turned the phone off, removed the SIM card. tossed it in the sink. 5 minutes later, the landline rang. I didn't even know I had a landline, but it was ringing. I followed the sound to the hallway. There, sitting on a small wooden table I had never seen before, was a rotary phone, jet black, no cords, just spinning slowly, the receiver vibrating with each ring. I reached for it. It stopped ringing before I could answer. Instead, the receiver lifted on its own, hung in the air. Then a voice whispered through it. Not my voice, not the reflection. This one was female, broken, like wet glass sliding over metal. You brought it here. Now it's hungry. I backed away. The receiver dropped, clattering against the base. From a hallway mirror, I saw movement. A face. Not mine. Mia's. Eyes wide, mouth open in a silent scream. And behind her, a dozen hands. Fingers curled like hooks, pulling her backward into the black. Then the mirror went still. Noah didn't want to come back to the house. I didn't blame him, but we had no choice. We knew now that the mirror shards had been recovered, that Mia, or what remained of her, had brought them somewhere. The only logical place? My old house. The origin point. The fracture in the timeline. We arrived just after sunset. The sky was dull and gray, the clouds hanging low like they were listening. The house looked worse than ever. Boards warped, windows dark, ivy curling over the door like veins. The moment we stepped inside, we heard footsteps. Upstairs. No one else was supposed to be here. We climbed slowly. Each step creaked like it hadn't been used in years. Dust clung to the air. Shadows moved in the corners. In the hallway, the mirror was back. Perfect. Untouched. No cracks. No fingerprints. Just a gleaming rectangle of glass at the end of the corridor. Noah whispered, "That wasn't there before." We approached it together. And then it changed. Not our reflections, but a scene. Mia in the basement, kneeling in the dark, holding the cloth pouch in one hand and a shard in the other. She was whispering something, over and over. The words echoed faintly into the hall. He's in the glass. He's in the glass. He's in the... She turned toward us. Her eyes were hollow, black, dripping. And then she looked directly at me, not at my reflection, at me, and smiled. The mirror shattered inward. An explosion of sound and wind ripped down the hallway. Noah was thrown back against the wall. I dropped to the floor, covering my face. When I looked up, the hallway was gone. In its place stood a corridor of mirrors, endless reflections stretching in both directions, twisting into infinity. And in every pane, a different version of me. Screaming, laughing, bleeding, silent. I stumbled forward, trying to find a way out. The air was cold now, like frost on skin. Each step echoed tenfold. Then, from behind one of the mirrors, a hand reached through. Mine, but not mine. The skin was gray. The fingernails sharp and broken. The eyes gleamed like oil. It grabbed my arm, pulled me forward, and I fell through the mirror into a room I recognized. The basement, but not my basement. This one was darker, deeper. The walls moved like they were breathing. And Mia was there, or what remained of her. She crouched beside the circle of shards, whispering. "It's growing," she said. "It needs a face to wear, a name to call. You brought it through." I backed away. From the darkness behind her, something emerged. A tall figure, faceless, covered in mirrors. Dozens of small square panels reflecting distorted, screaming faces. One of the faces was mine. It reached out, spoke without a mouth. "You hung up. Now I'm calling back." I screamed. The world cracked, and I was back in the hallway, gasping, on my knees. Noah beside me, trying to shake me awake. "You disappeared," he said, "for hours. I couldn't reach you. What did you see?" I didn't answer, because I didn't know what was real anymore. And in the mirror beside me, my reflection smiled. But I wasn't. Part 8. Noah stayed at my place that night. We didn't talk much. There wasn't anything left to say. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the mirror corridor, those infinite versions of me trapped behind glass, screaming silently as if trying to warn me. Around 2:58 a.m., the lights flickered. Noah and I both looked at each other. "Don't," he whispered. "Don't check the phone." But I already knew it would ring. And it did. 3 a.m. Except this time, there was no caller ID. Not even my number. Just a string of symbols. %Delta hashtag Infinity 9 *. The ringing echoed through the apartment, like it was coming from the walls themselves. And then it stopped. Noah and I exhaled in shaky unison. But then the television turned on by itself. Static. Flickering gray. Then black. Then Mia. Not Mia as we remembered her. This version had cuts along her face, her eyes stitched shut with what looked like thread pulled from hair. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Instead, the words appeared on the screen, like subtitles in a dead language. "Stop looking. It sees through you now." Noah stepped forward to turn off the TV. I grabbed his arm. "Don't touch it." But the screen changed before he could reach it. Now it showed the basement again, the place where I had fallen, where the mirrored creature stood. But this time, the creature was wearing my face. It held the rotary phone. And slowly, deliberately, it pressed a number. 1, then 5, then 2. Then the screen went black. And my cell phone, even though it was powered off, lit up in the corner of the room. Incoming call. From me. We left the apartment within minutes. Didn't even take jackets. Just got in the car and drove. No destination, no plan. Just movement. We ended up 2 towns over, parking behind an old motel with flickering neon signage that said, "Open," even though every window was dark. The front desk was empty. A ledger lay open with a key already placed on top. Room 17. Neither of us said a word. We took it. We walked down the hallway lit only by a single buzzing fluorescent light that turned the wallpaper a sickly green. Inside room 17, everything looked untouched. Too untouched. Plastic still on the mattress. No dust. No scent. Just a mirror nailed above the sink. Cracked directly down the middle. Noah sat on the edge of the bed, head in his hands. What the hell do we do now? I didn't answer, because I didn't know. That night, I dreamed. In the dream, I was inside a phone, not holding it. Inside it, my limbs were wires. My eyes were blinking red lights. My mouth was a speaker crackling with static, and I could see people, dozens of them. Mia, Noah, myself, all standing in front of mirrors, mouths open, screaming. But the screams didn't make it out. They echoed inside the glass, bouncing endlessly, feeding something deeper. Then a voice. Calm, ancient, cool. They thought reflections were copies. They were wrong. Reflections are doors, and some doors should never be looked through. I woke up gasping. Noah was gone. I ran outside. Room 18's door was open. Inside, I found him standing in front of the mirror, completely still, eyes rolled back into his head. The mirror was glowing faintly, not just reflecting, but projecting. It showed the house again. But this time, it was myself kneeling over Noah's body, and I was smiling. I grabbed him by the shoulders, shook him. "Wake up. Wake the hell up." He blinked once, then collapsed. When he came to, he didn't remember standing up, didn't remember anything past going to bed. "I think it's in me," he whispered. I hear it when I close my eyes. A dial tone. We left the motel by morning. But the world had changed. Slightly at first. Road signs had new names. Gas stations looked unfamiliar. Our hometown was spelled wrong on the exit ramp, only by 1 letter, but I knew it wasn't the same place. When we finally pulled into my apartment complex, the buildings were a shade darker, windows in places they hadn't been before, and my unit, 203, was gone, replaced with 204A. Noah said nothing. I stepped inside the new unit. It was mine, mostly. Same furniture, same books on the shelf, same jacket over the chair. But the photos on the wall, the faces were blurred, not just artistically, but smeared like someone had reached into the picture and swirled the identity away with their fingers. And the mirror on the bathroom wall? It wasn't a mirror anymore. It was a screen. A black screen that flickered with static for a moment, then showed one word. Answer. Noah said, "It's a trap." I know. Then why are you going to? I didn't respond, because it wasn't a choice anymore. I pressed my palm to the mirror. It rippled, and I was pulled through. Part 9. The moment I was pulled to the mirror, the world twisted. I wasn't in my apartment anymore. I was in a place that looked like a warped version of it. Walls bending like wet paper, colors bleeding from ceiling to floor. The air smelled like burnt electronics and cold metal. I turned slowly, trying to make sense of the space, but every step echoed as if the floor was hollow. Then I heard it, a voice. My voice, but twisted, distorted. "Welcome back." I spun around, but no one was there. Instead, the mirror shimmered in front of me, showing a reflection I didn't recognize. It was me, but broken. One side was my normal face. The other side was cracked, like shattered glass glued together. The cracked half smiled. I tried to back away, but the floor beneath me fractured like ice. Falling through, I landed in a dark room. A circle of mirrors surrounded me. Each reflected a different moment in my life. Some happy, some terrifying, some scenes I didn't remember living. Then the shattered reflection spoke again. Your world is just a reflection, and every reflection has a shadow. From the mirrors, shadows emerged, twisted, grotesque versions of me. They circled, whispering things I didn't want to hear, secrets I had buried deep, regrets, fears. The mirror versions lunged, and I dodged, heart pounding. I ran through the maze of mirrors, trying to find a way out. But each door I opened led me to another reflection of the same room. No exit, no escape. And then a familiar face appeared behind the glass. Mia, her eyes empty pits of darkness. She smiled that same terrible smile. "Did you miss me?" Before I could answer, my hand, grabbed me from behind. Noah. He looked pale, exhausted, but his eyes were clear. "We have to end this." I nodded. Together, we faced the shattered reflections. They screamed and reached through the glass, but Noah held out the cloth pouch, the one with the mirror shards. We shattered the shards again, and again, until the mirrors cracked, then shattered. The world around us trembled. I felt myself being pulled back to my apartment. Breathing hard, I opened my eyes. Noah was beside me, safe. The mirror in the bathroom was just a mirror again. No calls from my own number. No strange phones. No distorted reflections. For now. But as I looked in the mirror one last time, I caught a glimpse of something behind me. A shadow flickering, smiling. The calls may have stopped, but the reflection never forgets. Part 10. Days passed, but the unease never left me. The silence was too loud. My phone remained off, buried deep in a drawer, yet I could feel it vibrating beneath the surface of reality, like a heartbeat waiting to break free. Noah stayed close, but even he seemed different, more cautious, as if the shadow of what we'd faced clung to him like a second skin. One night, I woke to a sharp ringing in the dark. My heart leapt. The sound wasn't from my phone. It was everywhere, echoing off the walls, inside my head. Slowly, I rose and moved toward the bathroom, where the mirror hung. I stopped cold. There, scratched into glass from the inside, was a message. "I'm still here." I reached out, trembling, tracing the words with my fingers. The mirror rippled. My reflection smiled back. But it wasn't my smile. It was cruel, knowing, like it held every secret I never wanted revealed. Suddenly, the room chilled. Whispers filled the air, voices from the phone calls, from the shadows, from the broken reflections. They circled me, wrapping tighter like a noose. I slammed my palm against the glass. The mirror shattered, but instead of falling apart, it stretched like liquid, swallowing the room whole. Darkness. Then a voice, mine, but echoing like a warning from beyond. The calls never stop. because a reflection never dies. I fell back, gasping, as the pieces of glass reassembled, trapping me again. But this time I understood I wasn't just a victim. I was the door, and now it was opening.